Now, live from Hooley's Irish Pub and Grill, it's the Aztec Coaches Show. Here's your host, Chris Ello.
Hey, let's hear it, Aztec fans. Welcome to Hooley's Irish Pub and Grill. It is Wednesday night, and that means it is time for the Aztec Coaches Show, brought to you by Hooley's Irish Pub and Grill in Grossmont Center, also in Rancho San Diego. Award-winning food, great draft, and bottled beer selections, fantastic happy hour specials as well. You can click Hoolies.com for directions and more. And, of course, Hooley's is the official host location every single Wednesday night of the Aztec Football Coaches Show. We also thank our friends at Quality First Commercial, a full-service commercial real estate firm. You can visit their website at qualityfirstcommercial.com. QFC is there for all of your commercial real estate needs. And allow me to introduce to all of you the undefeated head coach of the San Diego State Aztecs, now at 3-0, Mr. Rocky Long, star of tonight's show, and I hope star of further shows as well. Coach, how are you?
I'm doing pretty good. How about you?
We're doing well. I can't believe we're finally here at the Michigan game. It seems like it was forever ago that in January, Brady Hoke took the job at Michigan, and then a few days later you stepped up there and accepted the head coaching post at San Diego State. And I think maybe one of the first questions you got was, well, are you looking forward to September 24th when you get to play Brady Hoke and you get to play Michigan? Now we can actually ask you about it, and the game has arrived. I mean, it seems like it got here quicker than anybody ever imagined.
Really?
Yeah.
I think it's been forever.
Really? You think it took too long?
I think it's been forever to get here. I'm so sick and tired of hearing about it, talking about it. I wish it would have been the first game of the season so we could have done it and moved on, but it's finally here, and we'll play it here pretty quick.
Is it going to be one of the strangest games you've ever coached? But, I mean, you've moved around enough to where I imagine you have probably coached against some of your former players, but I don't know if you've coached against your former head coach before.
No, let me think about that. I don't think I've ever coached. Yeah, I have. I was a defense coordinator at UCLA, and Jerry Pettibone was the head coach at Oregon State, and I left Oregon State to go to UCLA, and we played each other a couple times while I was there. And it's this one won't be as weird because when I did that, I was coaching against all those kids I knew. It's going to be a lot different for Brady than it will be for me because I don't know any of the Michigan kids. I love the kids on our team, but I don't know any of the Michigan kids. And Brady's a great guy, and he has great relationships with his players, so I'm sure he loves the Michigan kids. But he's still got some fondness in his heart for the kids at San Diego State, too, so it's going to be a little bit different for him.
Yeah, we asked him about that actually on our radio show yesterday about whether or not, if San Diego State were to win this football game, would he feel any sense of pride at all in the Aztecs and what they've accomplished? And of course he couldn't say, yes, I will, but you could feel it that he would. That's the kind of guy he is. He still does have a lot of respect and a lot of love for these kids here at San Diego State. I thought the story that we read earlier in the news in the week in the newspaper about your reasoning for staying at San Diego State, and I don't know that a lot of people knew about that because you did have a chance to join Brady Hoke at Michigan and decided to stay at San Diego State and become the head coach because you wanted to stay with these kids and you wanted to stay and keep the course going with the kids that you've got, and you didn't want to feel like they had been abandoned, I guess, if there's not a better way to put it. But I think that you've been rewarded for that in a lot of ways because you've done a great job with them, and it seems like your kids are doing a lot of great things for you.
Yeah, the players are doing a great job, and I think that the continuity has helped them. It probably has helped us because we know them. There's 3 guys on the staff that stayed, and we know the players pretty well, and we've kept things in place, and Brady did a great job of setting the tone and setting the foundation, and we've continued to try to harden the foundation, and the players have played pretty well. We're going to get better. We're getting ready to move into probably the toughest stretch of our schedule because we got Michigan, who's really good on the road back east. Then we got TCU, who's really good at home, and then we got Air Force on a short week, and they're pretty good too. And so we're entering the part of our schedule that's probably the most difficult.
Yeah, definitely a challenging stretch coming up for San Diego State. All right, this is my last comment on the Brady Hoke thing, and then we will move on because I know everybody wants to ask and talk about it. But did you do anything different as a staff, as a coach, in addressing the fact that your guys are playing Brady Hoke this week? Did you talk about that maybe early in the week and say, hey, let's talk about it and now let's move on, or anything different at all? And then I'm going to move on from it. That's it.
No, we can keep. It's Michigan week. We can keep talking about it this week, and then after the game's over, let's never mention it again. Okay?
All right, you got fair enough.
We've talked about it early in the week, but we also talked about it way back in August. Because even before we started training camp, and after training camp started, it seemed that all the media wanted to talk about was the Michigan game. I was concerned about Cal Poly. Cal Poly had won the last 2 times they'd been in San Diego. I was worried about Cal Poly, and all anybody wanted to talk about was the Michigan game. So then we beat Cal Poly, and we're playing West Army at West Point, which was a very difficult deal on 9/11, and all anybody wants to talk about is the Michigan game. And then last week we're playing Washington State from the Pac-12 or whatever. I guess it was the Pac-10, now it's the Pac-12, and who has a lot of really good athletes. And I'm concerned about Washington State, and all anybody wants to talk about is the Michigan game. So, God dang, I'm happy the Michigan game's finally here. so we can talk about it. We can play the game, and we can move on with the rest of the season. I think Brady. I didn't talk to Brady this week. Brady and I talk every once in a while. I didn't talk to him. He called me and left a message, and I'm not going to tell you what he said.
Okay.
And I called and left him a message. I think he feels the same way.
Really? He's happy
I
that
think
it's
he's
here,
happy
but
it's finally here. Yes,
just get it done. And I know your players are excited about it, and you've talked a little bit about worrying about maybe them being too geeked up to play against Brady Hoke and wanting to protect against that. So I imagine that's the message, is to make sure that you focus on the guy across from you and get the job done against the guy you're playing against, because we're not playing none of your players are actually playing Brady Hoke on Saturday.
Well, I mean, you've heard me say it's players against players. I mean, since day one when we started training camp, I've been trying to build the confidence in our team and our team that we can play anybody, anytime, anywhere. And this is no different. It's more about us than it's about our opponents. And this game is no different. People are trying to make this game different, but it's no different. We're going to a hostile environment. There's going to be 110,000 people, and maybe 100 or 150 of them are going to be for us, and all the rest of them are going to be for them. It's going to be loud. We're playing on the East Coast. We're trying to get to a point in this program that none of that matters. It doesn't matter who you play. It doesn't matter where you play them. It's about players making plays and players playing against them. The most difficult part of this trip is not Brady Hoke. It's not the stadium. It's not how loud it is. It's not how exciting it is. The most difficult part of this is that they're pretty good. I mean, they've got a really good coach, and they've got a really good coaching staff, and they've got really good players.
Pretty good ball club.
That makes it kind of tough.
Pretty good ball club. That's why they're ranked number 22 in the nation. The game is coming up, as everybody knows, this Saturday. We'll have it for you right here on AM 600 Kogo, with the pregame show beginning at 8 a.m. and kickoff at 9 o'clock in the morning on Saturday. We want to invite everybody who is listening to the program tonight, first of all, to come on down here to Hooley's and join us for the final 45 minutes of the program. We have a little seating left here. It's pretty jam-packed. You Aztec fans are doing a hell of a job coming on out on Wednesday nights. We really love having you down here at Hooley's, but there's room for some more. So if you want to pile in here, we'd love to have you. If not, and you have a question for the coach, you can call in at 858-569-8255. That's 858-569-8255, or toll free anywhere that you are listening to the program or perhaps watching the program on the internet. You can call and if you have a question for the coach as well, at 800-600-KOGO. That's 800-600-5646. We are just underway. You talked about making plays. The Aztecs made all of the plays Saturday night in that fourth quarter comeback victory over Washington State to go to 3-0. We'll talk to Coach Long about that. And you folks out here at Hooley's, get your questions ready. We'll have the microphone again and give you an opportunity to ask some questions of Coach Rocky Long as well. Until 8 o'clock, it is Wednesday night. It is Red and Black time, the Aztec Coaches Show from Hooley's on Learfield Sports and AM 600 Kogo. Aztec fans and listeners here to the Aztec Coaches Show. We are live at Hooley's Irish Pub and Grill in Grossmont Center, home to the famous corned beef tacos and other award-winning menu items. And, of course, every Wednesday throughout this college football season at Hooley's in Grossmont Center, we will have Coach Rocky along with us for the Aztec Coaches Show. Also, we thank our friends at Quality First Real Estate, San Diego's top real estate company. We can help you buy, sell, and manage San Diego real estate. When it comes to real estate, it's always Quality First. Check them out online, qualityfirstrealestate.com. We are with the coach of the Aztecs, undefeated at 3-0, Rocky Long, and going into the fourth quarter the other day, certainly everything was up in the air against Washington State. I thought that was just really a dead-even football game for three quarters. They had a 24-21 lead. You guys had come back with a touchdown to cut it to 3. And then the fourth quarter belonged to the red and black. You outgained them 165-62. In fact, they only had 62 total yards their final 6 possessions of the game. You forced them to turn it over 3 times. And, of course, you scored 3 unanswered touchdowns to win. That's a great sign to dominate a fourth quarter against a pretty good team.
Well, yeah, it obviously is a good sign. I think our players had the confidence that was going to happen eventually. When we went down by 10 in the past, since I've been here, a couple of years ago, not last year so much, but 2 years ago, we would get down by 10 and you got a lot of stares on the sidelines, a lot of blank looks, a lot of, oh, here we go again looks, and they kind of thought that maybe it was over. In the second half, when they threw that screen pass that went 80 yards for a touchdown, I was nervous that they would come off the field and you would get those stares into space. And I didn't see it in any of the offensive kids. It was no big deal to them. That just meant they had to score more. And you looked at the defensive kids and they're going, well, I should have made the tackle. Next time they throw a screen, I'll be in the right place. There was no panic. There was no overly concerned, which is a good sign, by the way, which meant they were just going to keep playing and playing hard. And if it worked out, it worked out. If it didn't, it didn't. But there was no woe is me. There was no down in the dumps. There was no, oh, my God, what's going on? And that's a sign of a team that's starting to mature. We're not there yet, but our mentality is becoming more and more like it needs to be.
Maybe a lot of people didn't think this was a huge win for you. I thought it was. I mean, we talked a lot about the Pac-10, the Pac-12, and the fact that San Diego State hadn't beaten a team from that conference in many years. But never mind all of that. We got all of that out of the way last week, and that streak is over. But just talking about Washington State itself, I mean, this was a team that had scored 61 points a game, averaged 600 yards a game. They got a darn good quarterback who can make all the throws. They probably got as good a set of receivers as you're going to see all season long. They buzzed it around pretty good. And I think it's a pretty good Washington State football team that you beat. I mean, never mind where they were last year. Where they are this year looks to me to be a team that's going to make a little bit of noise in the Pac-10 or the Pac-12. I mean, I thought that was a very good opponent that you beat. Maybe a lot of people look at it on paper and won't think so.
Well, I don't care who you're playing. Anybody that averages 61 points a game and 600 yards,
yeah,
they've got some talented players. And I thought their running backs were pretty good. I thought the quarterback was good, although he didn't run real well, which is completely different from what we're going to see this week. But,
yeah, we'll get into him.
Yeah, the wide receivers I thought they had 6 wide receivers I think can play for anybody. And they were tall and they were long and they could run fast. And I thought that was a great test. They were much bigger than the 2 teams we played before. I mean, they're huge on the offensive and defensive line. I think it took us a little while to get used to that. But I also think that we stayed with the game plan, and our offensive and defensive line kept pounding. And eventually the holes opened up bigger for Ronnie Hillman and Walter Casey. And on defense, all of a sudden we were sacking the quarterback when we were a step or 2 behind. From sacking them earlier in the game. I think that we just kept playing hard, and eventually we wore them down a little bit.
I thought that was the most impressive thing about Ronnie Hillman's performance on Saturday night. I mean, there's all the superlatives that we say every week about him, but in this particular game, it did not come easy for him. He really had to fight and scrap and and grab every yard that he could. He lost some yardage running from time to time. There were not big creases for him to run through. But by the fourth quarter, I think he had 83 of his rushing yards in the fourth quarter alone of his 191. And I thought he got stronger, and I thought he got better in the fourth quarter. That's just my opinion. But that's what the great backs do, is they dominate the fourth quarter if you keep giving them the ball.
Well, we look at the game differently. I thought the most impressive thing about Ronnie was early in the game when he was not getting big seams and he was getting hit early, that the piles never went backwards. They always went forward, which means that he's running with his shoulder pads at the right level and he's strong enough to move a pile. Now, later on, we all know Ronnie has great ability. And he, if you give him a seam, he can make something special out of it. To me, that means that the offensive line just kept pounding them and pounding them and pounding them, and eventually there was big enough seams that Ronnie could show his stuff. But I was more impressed with Ronnie when there weren't holes there, and he was getting, he'd get a yard or two and somebody was hitting him, and then it would be a 3-yard gain after he got hit for a 1-yard gain. That's more impressive, because when you look at Ronnie, now he's about 190 pounds, but when you look at him, he's not very big.
Yeah.
So that shows you he's a complete back, not just a scat back.
Well, you had a good game from a lot of people on offense, not just Ronnie Hillman. Ryan Lindley turned in another outstanding performance with a couple more touchdown passes, went over 10,000 yards for his career, only the second Aztec ever to do that. Spread the ball around. Denso, Lockett, Escobar, Quigley all caught 4 passes. Escobar made 2 touchdown catches, one of which was spectacular. So on offense, you guys did it again, piled up 500 total yards against Washington State. But you maybe won the game on defense with the 24-21 thing going into the fourth quarter. You shut him out. And how about Larry Parker coming up with a couple of interceptions in that fourth quarter? I after his first interception, I said, I might want to consider Larry Parker for a game ball. After his second interception, I said, I hope he does get a game ball, because I don't know that people realized the difficult challenge that he had in that game trying to match up against Marquise Wilson, who's an all Pac-12 receiver.
Well, people that understand the defense we play, we are very aggressive. We take a lot of chances. And that means you're going to give up some 80-yard touchdown passes. And screens are a big concern. When you blitz as much as we do, screens are a big concern. Well, when you play corner for us, that means you're one-on-one out there a bunch of the time.
Yeah.
And that means some bad things are going to happen to you. And the most impressed I was with Larry was that a couple bad things happened to him. He had great coverage, and they called it interference. Then he had a really good coverage, and the quarterback threw a perfect pass, and the guy catches the ball down the sidelines. Well, if you don't have confidence in your own ability, you can go into the tank, and it can get really bad. Well, it was after those 2 plays that he intercepted. The next time they tried to throw a fade on him, he intercepted the ball. And then later on, we rolled him up in zone coverage, and the quarterback made a bad throw, and he ran it back, and we eventually got the final touchdown after that interception. So you have to have, in our defense, you have to have that kind of mentality when you're a defensive back, because we're going to make you go man-to-man a bunch. And guess what? Sometimes they're going to catch it.
Yeah. Well, I thought that was really impressive performance by Larry Parker, because, as you said, he did get beat a couple of times, but when it was all said and done, Larry Parker was the guy standing, and Marquise Wilson was the guy on the ground, and Larry Parker had the ball, and the Aztecs had the football game 42-24 over Washington. Take a quick timeout. When we come back, we're going to have some questions for Coach Rocky Long, so get your questions ready. Polly will have the microphone, the handheld. She'll walk it around, give all of you an opportunity to ask some questions of the coach. And we'll talk about the matchup with Michigan, which is coming up on Saturday. The Aztec Coaches Show continues after this quick Kogo News update from Learfield Sports and AM 600 Kogo. All right, let's go, people. Hooley's Irish Pub and Grill in Grossmont Center. We got to dominate the second half of the Aztec Coaches Show. Chris Ello along with Rocky Long. Aztecs at Michigan Saturday. We're going to get some questions for the coach, talk a little bit about this Michigan game, but do want to remind everybody that the Aztecs' next home game is coming up a couple of weeks from now, Saturday, October the 8th. The Aztecs take on 20th-ranked TCU. That'll be the final meeting between the two schools as Mountain West Conference foes. Tickets for that game start at only $11, and kickoff is at 7:30 on Saturday night, October the 8th. It's also homecoming weekend at San Diego State, and the first 28,000 fans through the gate will receive a Marshall Faulk number 28 hat commemorating his Pro Football Hall of Fame induction earlier this year. To purchase Aztec tickets against TCU, call 619-283-SDSU or log on to goaztecs.com. I actually had Marshall Faulk on our radio show today, and he's really excited about the Michigan game. He's trying to find a way to get out of his NFL Network duties so that he can go back to Ann Arbor. He wants to be there for that game on Saturday. Here's a little quick note. This I don't know that anybody in the audience knows this or is aware of this. I found out about this today, and I wanted to share it with everybody because I think it's one of the most ironic stories I think I've ever heard. I told the coach this a little bit earlier. But does everybody remember, Aztec fans, when Marshall Faulk broke on the scene in 1991 with 7 touchdowns in one game against the University of Pacific? Let me hear you if you remember that game. Okay. Marshall Faulk scores 7 touchdowns as a freshman against Pacific. The date of that game was September the 14th, 1991. And I bring that up because something else also happened on September 14th, 1991. Does anybody want to take a wild stab as to what that might have been? There's no way you're going to get this. Ronnie Hillman was born that day. Is that like the most incredible irony you've ever heard? I just was blown away by that. Anyway, Coach, I thought I'd throw that in. All right, we're going to take Polly's got the microphone for some questions here. We also have a phone caller calling in from Phoenix who's listening on the internet, toll-free at 800-600-5646. And that is Ken in Phoenix, who's on the Aztec Coaches Show with Coach Rocky Long. Ken, how are you tonight?
Hey, I'm doing great. I just want to it's very exciting to talk to Coach. I'm a native San Diegan, graduated state 75. I've got season tickets only because Coach took over this team. I drove back there all the time with my friends. I was in Vietnam 69 and 70. I want to thank Coach for going over there. I really appreciate that. But I just want to give him a couple kudos, too. I think the critical thing about San Diego State turning around has been Coach Long. He's turned this into always had a good offense, but he's been a great defensive coach. And I just want to thank him for giving that mentality that he talks about to those young kids. And I think he's a great role model, and I admire him a lot. So, but one thing I want to ask him about the change in the second half, it seemed like the corners were coming up and playing a lot tighter because I think it looked like they realized they could play with these guys athletically.
Against Washington State, Coach,
yeah,
did you change your coverages at all in the second half of that game?
No, I appreciate the call. Thank you very much. No, we didn't change the coverages, but I think he's right. I think that we were still playing a lot of man coverage, and I think early in the game the speed of their receivers scared us because we hadn't seen them and hadn't played against the pass in a long time. And when you get beat for 80 yards on the very first play of the game, that backs DBs up a little bit. And as the game went along, I think they got more and more confident and started playing more aggressive and tighter coverage. Yeah.
Took over that ball game. Both Leon McFadden and Larry Parker both had outstanding games. Ken, thank you so much for the call from Phoenix. Yeah. Hey, that was a great phone call there. And, again, if you're watching on the internet wherever you are on goaztecs.com, you can call in with a question for the coach. But right here at Hooley's Irish Pub and Grill, Polly's got the microphone. And we have some more questions for you, Coach. Here we go. Yes, sir.
Coach Larry Fernandez. I had an opportunity to watch the Michigan game last week, and their quarterback and running back are pretty fast and elusive. And I felt that their quarterback, when he gets in a situation in the passing, he would prefer to run 70% of the time instead of pass the ball. They're both about 165 pounds, I think. I feel sorry for him, Coach. After your defense pounds on him for 4 quarters, I don't know what's going to happen to those two. Your comment.
You got to catch him first, though, Coach, right? That's the tough thing with Robinson.
Well, I think you're right about the running back. I think he weighs about 170 pounds, and he's elusive, and he's fast, and he's explosive, and I think they're going to try to pound it. We're off a little up front. I think they're going to try to pound the ball some with him. Now, the quarterback, he runs like a 170-pounder, but he's over 190. He's about 6'2" and about 190 pounds. I think he wants to throw the ball, but I think that if somebody's not open right away, I think he's so dangerous running with the football that he makes their team almost impossible to defense. I don't know how you defense a guy like him. No one else has done it very well. I hope you're right. I don't have the confidence you do, I guess, but I hope you're right.
Hopefully you'll wear down Denard Robinson. That would probably be a first, because he does look like one of those athletes that just keeps on coming. And the Notre Dame game, he was really special in the fourth quarter. So he had plenty left over to lead them to a great come-from-behind victory. Next question for the coach, Rocky Long, here at Hooley's. Yes, sir.
Good evening, Coach. Tim Jenkins, lifetime alumni member. My question is along the same line. I'm looking at, I don't believe that there's a team probably can shut us out in a game. So what are we looking at in the way of shutting them down and their offense? And what's Brady going to throw at us?
Well, I think what you saw, if you've watched them on TV against Notre Dame, and if you watched them last week, they were on against Eastern Michigan. I think you'll see the same things. They are kind of a combination between a pro offense, which Al Borges really is a master at, and that's what they want to do. They want to be in a pro offense, but they're also really smart coaches, and they know they have a special talent at quarterback. So you see some of the pro offensive stuff, but you see a lot more spread than I think they would like to run, but that's because of the quarterback. The quarterback's special. He is a spread-type quarterback, so they put him in the shotgun. They let him run the zone read. They throw some sprint outs, and the most dangerous he is when he scrambles. He scrambles around. Nobody can tackle him. If a guy comes open, he hits him with the ball, and if nobody comes open, he usually runs for, I think he almost gained 200 yards last week.
Yeah, he's had a couple of 52-yard runs. He's had at least one 50-yard run this season, and we've seen him take it the distance many, many times. I mean, is there a way to be overly concerned about trying to keep him in the pocket and get out of what you're trying to do? I mean, because everybody says that when they play Michigan, right? Well, all we have to do is keep Denard Robinson in the pocket and we'll be okay. We just got to keep him contained. I guess that's kind of, comparable to basketball teams saying, well, all we had to do is keep Michael Jordan out of the paint and we'll win the game. Well, yeah, but you can't keep him out of the paint. He's going to get in there anyway, right?
Well, I've seen everybody try it because we watched every game from last year already, and we broke every game from last year down, and we watched the 3 this year. I've seen people try to blitz him and send everybody, and that didn't work. And I've seen people, stay at the line of scrimmage and just kind of move the pocket real nice and easy and tried to keep him in there. And guess what? They had 4 guys there to tackle him, and nobody tackled him. So I think you have to play your defense and realize that he's going to make some plays, but you play your defense and hope that you make enough plays to make the difference in the football game. There are certain kind of athletes that you're not going to stop. And I don't think you're going to stop him. Now, if we can keep him under control enough to give our offense a chance to score enough points, that would be good. I mean, I think if people will play us normal, if they don't put 10 guys in the box, you're going to have a hard time stopping Ronnie Hillman, too.
Yep.
Now, if you put 10 guys in the box, and then there's a receiver out there someplace that's got one-on-one in the whole field, and he's got to make you pay for it.
Well, that's right. They got to find a way to stop the Aztec offense. I don't know if people are aware, but 21 points or more now have been scored in 17 consecutive games by San Diego State. That is the longest such streak since 1970. So you got to go back 40 years the last time the Aztecs offense has been this consistent for this long. We have time for a couple more questions here at Hooley's Irish Pub and Grill for Coach Rocky Long. Yes.
Hi, Roger from Carlsbad and recovering O-lineman. I wanted to know if you noticed the Washington center at that game. I thought the down lineman had to be set a second before the ball was snapped, and he kept moving his left arm back and forth, trying to draw us off. Did you notice that? And is that legal or what?
Well, I don't think the movement he was making was enough to draw anybody offside, so it wasn't illegal. As long as it's not a quick motion that draws somebody offsides, they'll never call it. Now, since we don't play Washington State again, it was a key for our defensive lineman to get off on the ball quick because he did the same thing every single time. When he brought his arm back, the snap was happening right after he brought his arm back.
You didn't think he'd miss that, did you? Are you kidding me here, huh?
And since we don't play him again, maybe I'm going to help somebody else, but coaches are good. They'll see that. And so I think we got off the ball a little bit quicker than we normally do because he had that habit.
Thanks for the question. Do we have any more, Paulie? We have time for one more. All right, one more question for the coach, Rocky Long, on the Aztec Coaches Show. Yes.
Coach, let me do it this way first. Let me tell you what my qualifications for asking this question. I never played football, never had a helmet on, okay? But the thing that gets me, and it kind of grinds my grits, is that in an obvious passing down, like third down and 20, everybody wants to rush only 3 people, and I think the Chargers discovered that by rushing only 3 people, you give the guy 8 seconds, he'll kill you, and so my suggestion is this, and like I say, for somebody that never played football, why not put 5 on an obvious passing down, put 5 defensive linemen in the game and put them like one-on-one on those guys and see what the result would be?
I think that your question's not for not playing football. I don't think it's I think it's a good question. I think it's more about disguise. And if you watch us play, there's very, very, very few times that we rush 3 guys. Normally we play man and we rush 5 or 6, or we play zone behind 5-man rush. We play a zone blitz concept. That's our normal defense. I think it's disguise. I don't think you put 5 defensive linemen in there, they're going to know you can only do so many coverages. And quarterbacks now are so good that they read coverages, they know right to go with the ball. But if you have 3 defensive linemen and 3 linebackers out there and 5 DBs in a nickel situation, you can move him around and he's not sure what the coverage is, and you can still bring 5 guys to make sure he throws the ball on time.
He explains everything amazing to me. I mean, it just seemed like I thought the question was really good. Just get 5 huge defensive linemen and just rush the quarterback and get to him. But if you do that, then they know that all 5 of those guys are coming. If you have 3 and 3, then they don't know which guys are coming and which guys are dropping. A little more chalkboard talk from the coach, Rocky Long. We'll take a quick time out here, come back with one final segment. The Aztec Coaches Show from Hooley's Irish Pub and Grill. Rolling along. You guys are doing a great job out there again on this Wednesday night from Learfield Sports and AM 600 Kogo. All right, welcome back to Hooley's Irish Pub and Grill, everybody. Come on, let me hear you. We're going into the 4th quarter. Wrap things up here with Aztec coach Rocky Long. Want to remind all you Aztec fans, you can follow the fun and excitement of SDSU athletics on Facebook at facebook.com/Aztec Game Time. You can win prizes, compete in contests, and connect with other passionate Aztec fans. Each week, fans are winning free Papa John's pizzas, Smash Burger, Smash Bucks, In-N-Out Double Doubles, and Rubio's gift cards. That's Aztec Game Time is your inside source for all things Aztec. So become a fan now of Aztec Game Time on Facebook, and that'll get you game time ready. We are ready right now to present this week's California Bank and Trust Student Athlete of the Week. Proud to recognize San Diego State's outstanding student athletes, and this week's winner happened to be born on the same day that Marshall Falk ran for 7 touchdowns in a game against Pacific. This week's California Bank and Trust Student Athlete of the Week is your guy, Coach, football player Ronnie Hillman, named the Mountain West Player of the Week for his outstanding game against Washington State. 191 yards rushing, a career-high 32 carries. Hillman is currently 2nd in the nation in rushing with 497 yards. He is leading the nation in touchdowns with 8. And this week, Coach, you've got the number 2 rusher in the country on your team, but you got the number 3 rusher in the country on Michigan's team, and that's their quarterback, Denard Robinson. So it's going to be a great matchup. Let's talk just a little bit about how their defense matches up against your offense. We've talked a lot about trying to slow down Denard Robinson, but you've got some weapons that you'll be bringing to the table certainly Saturday for the ball game. How do you rate this Michigan defense heading into this game?
I think they're physical. I think they're big, strong, and physical. I think they're learning. They're getting better at the defense. They're learning a new defense from a year before. They're basically in a 3-4 now, though you see them in a 4-3 scheme some of the time. Greg Madison does a great job with the defense. He was the defense coordinator for the Ravens last year and was the D coordinator there for several years. He knows exactly what he's doing. He's putting in the defense a little bit at a time, and they seem to be executing it better and better each week. So it's going to be tough for us to move the ball because they have really good athletes and the defense is sound. He disguises coverages really well. The blitzes come from places that you don't see them. We're lucky we have a veteran quarterback that might be able to pick some of it up, but we won't pick it all up, and he's got to get rid of the ball quick. The real question is if we're tough enough up front to open up some holes for the running game.
Who needs holes when you've got Ronnie Hillman, though, right? You already said he runs better. He impressed you more without the holes, but you'd rather see the holes.
Well, that means he was gaining 2 or 3 yards. I'd much rather see a hole where he gains 15 or 20.
The holes when he's getting those 15 and 20s. Ronnie Hillman, our California Bank and Trust Student Athlete of the Week. Your offensive line with Alec Johnson now back at center has allowed only 1 sack so far this year, and you've had 2 200-yard rushing games as a team, given Ryan time to throw, and, of course, Ryan gets rid of the ball so beautifully. How would you rate their performance going forward into this, and is this their stiffest challenge to date?
Oh, by far. I
Yeah.
mean, I thought our first couple games, I thought the Washington State team was the biggest, most physical, most athletic team we played. Well, we just stepped up another step. I mean, we're moving up to a much better football team that has athletes that were highly recruited, 5-star guys, and they deserve those 5 stars. They're a little bit bigger and stronger than Washington State. They've got great skill on both sides of the ball. Yeah, we're moving up in class.
Moving up just a little bit, your wide receiver core, Denso and Lockett, both caught 4 for you the other day. Escobar had a couple of touchdowns. I'm sure you were pleased to get the tight ends back into the mix after well, I don't think they took the week off at Army, but they didn't end up catching too many passes at Army. When you've got Quigley and Escobar going, and then you get Austin Amulo into the mix finally the other day, that's a lot of people for Michigan to keep track of.
Well, we talk about this all the time. Our best depth is at tight end. We've got some good players there, and we're going to have to use them a lot this week. I think that they're going to get some pressure, so Ryan's going to have to get rid of the ball quick, and some of the best receivers we have will be close to him, and they can use their bodies to screen defenders.
All right, coming up on Saturday morning, hey, we want to take a moment to thank everybody again. Give yourselves a huge round of applause and thank to everybody who came out to Hooley's Irish Pub and Grill here in Grossmont Center tonight for the Aztec Coaches Show. I got to thank Scott Horvath, our camera guy, beaming us all over the world, to all of the folks in Ann Arbor who watched the Coaches Show. Sorry we didn't give you away any secrets. You're just going to have to wait until Saturday to find out what Rocky's going to do. We also had some viewers in England tonight, Coach, so we're moving all over the world. Want to thank Polly who helped us out. Our on-site engineer is the best in the whole deal right here, Kevin Boyle. Thank you, Kevin. And let's hear it for Craig at Hooley's for having us out here every Wednesday night. Craig, thank you very, very much. Back in the studio is Kevin Finnerty. My promotion staff led by Tiffany and Chris, thanks to you. For the coach, Rocky Long, I'm Chris Ello. Enjoy the game, everybody, Saturday morning at 9 right here on AM 600 Kogo. Good night.